What does it mean to transform yourself? This is the question I want to talk about today because I think it's something that most people don't understand very deeply, but we can set ourselves on a journey of transformation, and I'll tell you more about what that means. And there's a number of things that happen during that are counterintuitive. We don't think that this should be included in what we might call a transformational journey, but they are an important integral part of the journey. So I'm going to talk about that. Most of you already know me, but I'll introduce myself. I'm Leo Babauta from Zen Habits. I've been doing this work for 20 years plus on my own transformational journey from one change in my life to another until my entire life was transformed. But I haven't stopped there. I've continued my own deep inner work and then working with others as a coach, supporting them in habit change and simplifying their lives, becoming more mindful, becoming minimalists, changing their habits. So these are some of the things that I've helped people with. But the thing that I help my one-on-one coaching clients with and people in my Fearless Mastery program is something that I call transformation. Now, I didn't invent this, but let's talk about what transformation means. Let's talk about the transformational journey. And let's talk about the pieces of that journey that I think most people don't understand. So transformation is something that we might all be undergoing just naturally, but I don't think that it normally happens naturally because we tend to make some changes in our lives and then just stick to our comfort zones. So for example, let's say I want to write a book, right? I'm going to try and write a book in the way that is comfortable to me, that I know how, that seems doable, that isn't so far outside of my comfort zone that I'm going to be feeling really shaky and full of self-doubt. I'm going to try and do it within that. And because, that's really hard to do to actually write a book within that comfort zone, eventually I'll probably stop. Right. And so then this might happen again and again and again, and I'm going to be stuck within that pattern because I am stuck within my comfort zone. But transformation is being willing to step outside of that pattern, to show up in a way that you haven't been before or that you're not used to showing up. Have that feel really shaky, have your fears come up, have yourself want to go back into safety, and then continue to show up over and over in this new way. And then what happens is that new way becomes completely available to you. You don't have to work at it, becomes easy and your default. And that becomes a transformation. It's an inner transformation, but it also transforms the results you get outwardly. So in the book example, maybe you're now able to not only write your book, but put it out there really boldly. If you wanted to start a business, first of all, you might believe in yourself and actually start to show up in a way that you could start that business. But second, you're starting it, you're doing the work, and you're putting yourself out there, you're taking risks, you're being courageous, and that can actually create the results that you're hoping for and more, right? And so these are just a couple of examples where we might show up differently and then the results we have are different. It could transform our health and our fitness, transform our habits, transform our mindfulness, transform our relationships, transform our finances. So these are all external things that could shift when we start to transform internally. So that is what transformation is, but there's a journey that we're on. And I've done this on my own, but more, it really happens when I'm being supported by my coach and my Zen teacher. And then I support others to do the same. And so it's a real honor to be supporting someone on their transformational journey, trusting them in their process, supporting them to see things that they can't see on their own, that are in their blind spots. And so what I do is I tell them a little bit about this journey so they know what to expect. I'm kind of a guide, a Sherpa on the path here that they're climbing. And so I want to tell you a little bit about that as well. And if you want to do some more work with me, I do accept one-on-one coaching clients right now. My roster is full as I record this, but I have new spots opening, practically every month. So do apply, do get on a call with me if you're interested in working with me. So what does this journey look like? So, first of all, what we need to do if we want to create transformation is set ourselves on a commitment that is outside of our comfort zone and, more importantly, outside of what we already know to do. So if you say, I am going to be, you know, 10% more productive than I am right now, that probably doesn't require a transformation. You just need to like put a little bit more effort in or make a switch, a slight switch in the way you do things, or try out a new tool or system or organizational method. Those are all within what you already know how to do, just a little bit better, right? That's not transformation. And that's actually what most people set themselves to do is they try and do something that's a little bit better, right? I want to get a little bit fitter, a little bit better finances. I want my finances to be slightly above where they are right now. As opposed to like, what would it look like if you didn't have these limits? What if it could be anything, right? Maybe I want, some abundant finances where I'm able to travel and live life much more freely, just in terms of finances. But maybe my health, I could actually be like an athlete and feel like incredibly fit and energetic. So these would be results that are outside of what we already know how to do. It doesn't even seem possible because we only think of the possible as what we can already do. So set a result that's outside of that and then commit to it. Now, most people won't even do that part. And this is why I support my clients to say, like, okay, well, if we can move all of these doubts and fears out of the way, what would you really want? And we do some work around that. And what happens is they start to set themselves a result. If I could have anything, I want this, and this, but let's start with this, right? So this result is what I'm going to be shooting for this year. And then they commit themselves to that. And that might mean not just getting the result, but what are the things that are going to be required to get there? Maybe set up some structure, some milestones every single month so that you can try and hit those on the way to that result. What are you going to do on a daily basis? What are you going to commit yourself to regularly so that you can actually hit that result? So they commit themselves, they set up some structure, maybe some accountability, and then they start moving towards it. And what's going to happen on this journey, the next step is that they will try and do that commitment from within the way they already know how to do it. And what I mean by that is if they're used to putting their nose to the grindstone and just like forcing them to do things that they don't want to do, so coercing themselves, that's what they're going to do, right? Or if they're like, oh, it seems so hard, and they veer off in every other direction, they're going to do that, right? If they start to beat themselves up and doubt themselves and get caught up in their heads full of anxiety about this, that's what they already know to do, then they're going to do that. And so then trying to be on this path of commitment to something that's outside of what they know, doing things in the way that they know, they're inevitably going to fall short sometime. Maybe they'll make some progress and it'll feel really good, but they're not really going to focus on that progress. They're going to focus on the parts where they're falling short. And then they're going to start to doubt themselves and they're going to get stopped at some point. Now, that is a very important point because that's the point when most people will give up and shrink back into their comfort zone and say, I didn't want that anyway. Right? Just forget about that result that I committed myself to. And so most people will actually shrink back. Some people won't stop and they'll be like, oh, I need to force myself to do this. And they'll just work harder and harder and harder and harder. And then their point of getting stopped will come later when they maybe break down and can't go anymore and get really sick, or some other thing that's going to get in the way. So at some point, you will get stopped. And that is expected because you're doing things the way that you already know to do them. And that's the point where I really suggest you have a coach. It doesn't have to be me. But like I said, I love supporting people in this. So if you want to work with me, let me know. Coaching.zenhabits.net is the place to go and click to apply and fill out a form to book a call with me. But let's say you have a coach. And at that point, you say, Coach, I am falling short. I can't do this. I want to give up. And the coach then will support you to pause and breathe, and then let's together take a look at what's going on. What is showing up for you? What is getting in the way for you? How are you tackling this? How are you looking at it? And there's going to be in one of these things, there's going to be something that you can't see. It lies in your blind spot outside of what you're able to see. And that's what the coach is going to support you to see. It's like, oh, maybe it's because you're looking at this way, or maybe it's because you always do this way, and you're always showing up this way, or because of this, right? And so we start to look at it and start to see what we can't see. And as you do that, the next job that you have is to go and bring that into your awareness outside of your blind spot into what you can see. And you're like, oh yeah, there, I'm doing it right there. And oh, I'm doing it there. And oh, I'm doing it there. And when you notice it, your next job after that, noticing it is really, really huge. But your next job after that is to pause and to sit with it and be like, oh, right now, I really want to do this. I want to put my nose to the grindstone and coerce myself. Or I want to go and do all the easy stuff and not this hard thing. Or I want to give up and I want to beat myself up about it. So just be with what's showing up for you, all of the thoughts, all of the beliefs, all the things that you're trying to do, but more importantly, what is underneath that, the emotions, the energy that's in your body, the sensations. Can you be with all of that? As you do, what you're going to do is learn to be with the part you don't want to be with, that you're trying to get away from. You've set up some strategies to get away from. And you will start to find some equanimity, some relaxation, some peace in the midst of that experience you really are trying to get away from. So, for example, if you're like, I need to do this, otherwise I suck, and then you can't do it, and then you feel like you suck, well, that's what you're trying to get away from, this feeling that you suck. And so, what if you could just sit with that feeling that you create? I suck. I can't do this. I'm deflated. I'm discouraged. I'm defeated. I'm powerless. Just be with all of that. And as you do that, you'll relax more and more, and it's not going to be such a big deal. It won't have the intensity. And now you can commit yourself to creating a breakthrough from all of this. The breakthrough is the next part. The next part is, how do you want to show up that's going to be completely different, that will transform everything? It doesn't have to get rid of the fears and doubts or the defeatedness, the powerlessness. Those can still be there. We're not trying to fix that, but more you now bring into the mix this part of you that you normally shut down. So maybe it's your sense of curiosity or play or adventure. Maybe it's your sense of magic or power or leadership. Maybe it's your sense of divinity or wonder. Maybe it's your sense of love or compassion, presence, something that you have naturally in you, but you shut it down when it comes to this kind of stuff. And so when that comes, you shut it down. And so the practice is bring it, even when it feels like you shouldn't, even when it doesn't feel safe, when it feels like you should shut your heart down and not be curious or not have adventure. Bring that curiosity, bring that adventure. And what's going to happen is that will become more and more available to you as you practice. And you need to get supported in continuing to do that, supported when you feel like giving that up, and supported to celebrate the parts where you are doing that. And eventually you start to show up with more ease, an ability to show up with that curiosity, with that adventure, whatever it is that you're trying to show up with. Now, this is your journey. It isn't something that I can tell you how to do it or what to do. It's not a follow steps 1 through 10 and then you've got transformation. It's you have to actually do some of these pieces that I've just shared and get supported in some way. I really encourage you to get a coach to support you through this, because I found that we won't do it on our own. So if you'd like to do that with me, coaching.zenhabits.net. If you want to find another coach, that's fine. Get some support. Transformation is incredible. It starts to make things available to you that you didn't know were available before. Results in your life start to show up. Relationships start to get better. Finances start to get better. You start to experience life in the way you've always been craving, but have just decided that that wasn't possible. And now the impossible becomes much more possible. That's transformation. Love to support you on that. I hope that you take this on. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment below. Give this a thumbs up. Help others find this kind of deep work. And subscribe if you'd like more of these Zen Habits videos to help you in your life. I'm Leo Babauta. Thank you for watching.